Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Serge.
And my name is James.
And we're still twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the Premier League to restart, James.
I'm not. I've got Mourinho. I've got VAR to look forward to. My football club can't spend any money. I can wait. I'm good.
Really? It's got to that point where actually you don't want football back? Come on, let's be honest. We all know that's not
immersing myself in the content and stuff. So, yeah. I mean, look, of course I miss football. Of course I want to go back to Spurs and stuff. But I don't know. You just got to make the best of what you've got. And I've always been of the opinion for several weeks that this is not something that's going to return anytime soon. So just get on with it.
Yeah, true. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Yeah, not too bad. I had a day off from content yesterday. It was my first in quite a while, I think. Yeah. Saturday was good fun with the live stream. What about yourself?
Saturday was not fun with the live stream. And just we'll give a little plug to some of the other stuff that you've been on. But last week, obviously, you were on with the Wildcats and the Wolfpack. The Wildcats quiz, James, I'm not going to lie, after about 10, 15 minutes and some questions around Elvis, and on this day in 1956, I had to tap out. It was tough, man. It was tough.
I did all right on it, actually.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be a football quiz.
Right?
Our friend Jeff did the quiz. I thought it was going to be a football quiz. And then Nim said to me at FPL Nymphria, she said, it's going to be like a mix. There's not a lot of football. I was like, there's no point having me on there, mate.
No, exactly.
But I did all right. I only lost I lost by a point and that on Thursday. I lost by a point to the Wolfpack on Tuesday. So typical Spurs fans, putting the pressure on, but can't quite win anything. And FPL Family released the second part of our Champions League journey from last season on their YouTube audio platforms on Saturday as well.
Nice. I haven't caught up with that second half yet, James, but I will be later on today or tomorrow and sit back and have a look at that. So definitely an interesting listen. So no football yet, but there's still plenty for us to talk about, James. We have the Premier League had a meeting on Friday, which we can touch base on briefly about what we think is going to happen with football. There is transfer talk at Newcastle, not transfer, but takeover, I should say, really, shouldn't I? Takeover talk at Newcastle, which we're going to have a little chat about. We can talk about Champman FPL if we must. I had a disaster this weekend. No different to what can happen in regular FPL. We'll talk about that as well, to be honest with you. And we've got a few Twitter questions to get through as well, James. So still plenty for us to talk about. I know the fans on Twitter are still always asking us for plenty of content, which we can touch on. So, yeah, let's start with this the restart of football, shall we? The Premier League had a meeting on Friday. I think what we expected was the main topic of discussion was, does the season have to be finished by the 30th of June? And whether that was going to be a hard and fast deadline. But we didn't really get any clarity on whether that was the case.
Well, I think we did get a lot of clarity in terms of if that was the case. As I said to you I think it was Thursday's pod after we did the piece on Ajax, was if the hard deadline of June 30 was going to be enforced, there wouldn't be the end of the football season. So they reckon at this meeting on Friday that nobody brought up that date. And it seems like the word that's come out of that meeting is the best case scenario for a restart is June the 8th, which is about 6 weeks away. And if we're saying government's obviously put us in lockdown for another 3 weeks, then we're saying sort of training for 3 weeks, then restart football. Yeah, that's what we're looking at as a very best case scenario. Absolutely. And I would suggest that the best case scenario is also unlikely to happen. I don't see June football personally. If it does, great, brilliant. I don't see it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you feel like you've got clarity that 30th of June deadline is not going to be enforced.
No, definitely not. No, I don't know, obviously, where we'd heard that news that it might get enforced, especially after the word coming out of UEFA was they're looking at the Champions League final on the last Saturday of August. So we're looking at a completion of UEFA competitions after completion of domestic competitions. So I think what you might see as an enforcement of, I don't know, the 20th of August or something like that as an enforced date to complete domestic fixtures. And if we can't get to that point, which I think means restarting by, say, second, third week of July latest, then we've got a problem. And I do think, by the way, that's a probably more likely time frame for a restart at the moment is probably mid-July rather than mid-June.
Wow. I'm in disagreement on that. I think that we're talking 3 weeks more of lockdown. I expected 4 weeks more, but I think the middle of May is when we're going to be coming out of lockdown. Based on where the graphs are going and what have you, everything's a guess, right? But I think middle of May, and I think the clubs will get 3 to 4 weeks to prepare, and by middle of June we'll be playing football again, which gives us, to be honest, if we start by the middle of June, even the end of June, we have enough time to finish this season, the 2019-2020 season.
But there's a major difference between going back to work and going back to work and playing football. And the reason I say that is, if you and I go back to work and one of us contracts the illness and then we have to go and work from home again for 2-3 weeks or so, great, we can do that. If a Premier League player gets sick again, so that football club and their opponents then can't play for 2-3 weeks. And you're going to be in a timescale where you just cannot afford for that to happen. So, yes, I understand the whole idea of they're saying, all players and officials have got to be tested before they enter a stadium and that, if it's behind closed doors and all that, which obviously, if it happens, will be behind closed doors.
Yeah, that's one thing we should add in. I'm 100%
so what happens? What happens if, here's a perfect case scenario for you. Let's say game is on a Saturday, any game between two teams, right? On the Friday at training, before they go home, they test all the players. All the players are absolutely fine. The other
Carl
half,
Walker invites his friends around.
the other half at the same time has had to go down the supermarket to get essential goods. Comes home and gives one of the players the dirty virus. Then they'll go on a coach together to the game. Then they've all got it. So they turn up at the ground. One of them's got it. What happens then? It's brutal. There's no easy, quick fix to this. I'm telling you.
You make a very, very good, valid point there. I just think that the numbers will be low enough that we'll be able to get out of it. But I'm thinking mid-June. Start training mid-May. Football by mid-June.
I obviously hope that you're right. I don't think that you are.
We do know one thing, though, James.
I do think, just to say one final thing, I'm beginning to think where I've always felt that this football season would finish no matter what, I'm beginning to think that it might not.
I think there's always been that risk for me. I think there's always been that risk. One thing
my opinion, if there's no football till October, we should still finish this football season.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
One thing we do know is that the Scottish Championship, League One and League Two will not be finishing this season. So Dundee voted last week to void or end the season as it was on a points per match basis, meaning Dundee United got up to the Premier League. No clarification on whether or not there's relegation from the Premiership, those Premier League in Scotland, right?
No, so
they could still finish their season.
They could, but the SPFL now has the power within them just to say, no, that's it, void. In which case, Celtic would be champions, Hearts would be relegated. I think they would do it. They've done the lower league on the average points per game.
Yeah,
so
points per match, yeah.
They would do the same for UEFA qualification, that kind of thing. Fair enough. I think what's the only thing that's really happening in Scotland now, because I think it will be voided. I think what's happening up there now seems to be the idea, which obviously the lady from Hearts, whose name I keep forgetting, she's trying to push for an expanded league, isn't she? So that they don't get relegated, because that's the harshest one. It's not the not getting the trophy; it's the losing out on the getting the relegated, the financial, the TV money.
And they're not like 10 points adrift, are they?
No, like I don't know, a few points off or something. It's easily recoverable in 2 game weeks, essentially. So I think that's what they're looking for. One of the things I've always spoken about in Scotland is I don't understand why it's not just 2 leagues of 20 teams, for example. Well, I do know why. It's about the old firm and money and people getting their slice of the old firm. That's why. And obviously 20 teams means Celtic and Rangers only play each other twice in the league rather than 4 times. So TV companies potentially say, well, actually, we're paying for Celtic v Rangers. Fuck the rest of you. That's the problem. That's the fear amongst the rest. It's really concerning. that the others are so reliant on Celtic and Rangers. Because
Yep.
as much as I've said, the idea of European Super League, hate the idea and all that, like if anything did break away, Celtic and Rangers would be at the front of trying to make that happen. I'm absolutely convinced. There was this idea floated about years ago, wasn't there, about like Celtic Rangers, the three best from Holland, the three best from Portugal, and a couple of other leagues going and doing their own little thing because the rest of their leagues are so uncompetitive. I think that's a concern further down the line at some point. I think we're miles from it, but I think it's a concern at some point, yeah.
Whilst we talk about clubs and status and stature and money, should we talk about the Geordies?
So they've come into a few quid, I understand.
Well, they haven't yet because I don't think it's signed, sealed, delivered.
It's done, isn't it?
But it's as good as done. Mike Ashley being the major beneficiary. I mean, he bought the club for 150 million. He's selling it for 300, like 13 years later. He's probably made 5 times as much money from Sports Direct in that time as he has from Newcastle. And that's not to say how much he's put into the club. But still, he's almost finally rid of it. And in comes Amanda Staveley and the Saudi Arabians.
The Staveley's got 10%. There's his two brothers who've got 10%. They work in property and stuff. And I think that 20%, there's not a lot of money between them. But the Saudi guys who have picked up the 80%, they've got a couple of quid.
Just a few.
Right. To answer the first question, Suj,
yes.
How rich are they?
So they're stupidly rich. Any layman might look at the Middle East and think that obviously all of these countries are rich, right? You've got Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, of which Abu Dhabi is 1/7 of the United Arab Emirates. You've got all of these countries there. Saudi Arabia is top of the tree for all of these countries by far and away. They have more oil than anybody else, and they dictate all of the politics, all of the military strategy, everything that happens in the Middle East. They are the big dogs when it comes to the Middle East. Streets ahead of everybody else, far, far superior to everybody else.
The number that's been bandied about is 10 times richer than Man City.
Yeah, and I think you need to be kind of sort of careful because these comparisons are useful but not so useful as well. So to give you an idea, Manchester City are owned by Sheikh Mansour, and he is one of the royal family within Abu Dhabi, right? And so when they're talking about 23 billion, they might be talking about his personal wealth. As an individual, might be 23 billion. He's one of a member of the royal family in Abu Dhabi.
So he can borrow if he's short, yeah?
I'm sure he can. Yeah, I'm sure he can. With Saudi Arabia, there's the Saudi Arabia Private Investment Fund, right? So the government has tons of money, tons and tons of money. This is not uncommon. So the government will then say, right, okay, we're sitting on all of this money. We want to make a return on our money, right? No one just leaves it in the bank earning 0.5% of interest. Let's invest it. So they set up a private business that's wholly owned by the government, that the money comes from the government, but it's an investment fund. And that is what is worth $320 billion, so 270 billion pounds, numbers way in excess that we can ever think about. So there's this investment fund that's owned by the Saudi Arabian government that's going to be putting the money into Newcastle. And it's, Bin Salman, who is the guy that runs that. He's the deputy prime minister of Saudi Arabia. His dad is the king.
So Newcastle United are now the richest football club in the world. Is that correct?
No. They have the richest owners in the world. But as we've seen with financial fair play, you can only spend a certain amount of money. So just because they've got 250 billion doesn't mean they can spend 250 billion. It still has to be in proportion to your incomings. Yes, they are the richest owned, but they are the richest owners, but that doesn't mean they can just go out and spend that money.
Okay. So I think where I can come in from the football perspective here and say what is different and while this may be different, and it's not to I've seen some people trying to curb Newcastle fans' enthusiasm. I don't think that's the case. I think we should all be incredibly excited of what's going to happen.
Of course.
Like amazing, and
Of
you're gonna get to where you want to, which in the first instance, by the way, for Newcastle United fans, is not a lot more than just going and supporting their team and enjoying it, because they haven't done that for a very long time. That phase will 100% definitely happen. Good times are coming.
What was the turnaround time from City getting the investors from Abu Dhabi to the title? 3 years?
Well, what I was going to say in terms of difference, so City basically got taken over on deadline day, August 2008. It won the title in 2012. The major difference between City then and now is a couple of things. First thing actually is not, well, it is money related, but is that the Premier League is so much more competitive. So if you go back to that point in 2008, Liverpool had the odd couple of year where they'd flirt with it, but otherwise it was United and Chelsea and Arsenal were aggressing financially through the restrictions of the Emirates. Okay, so Tottenham weren't on the board. Obviously, City themselves and Liverpool were nowhere near what they are right now. So now there's the so-called Big Six, when then it was called a Big Four, and one of those Big Four hadn't won the title for a very long time. But the major difference in terms of what I think will be different for Newcastle and now is what you've already mentioned is FFP. So when Man City got taken over, there was no restriction. If they wanted to go mental, they could go absolutely mental. Now, when you look back at the sums of money City was spending 12 years ago, in hindsight now, it doesn't look that big. Let me assure you that it was. Okay, it's equivalent to the 60, 70, 80 plus millions that they're spending now. Some of the sort of 20, 30 million bombs they were dropping. Now, what you've already said is that Newcastle can't just go, like people talk about Mbappe, for example. Newcastle cannot just go to PSG and pay 500 million for Mbappe and give him £2 million a week and say, right, he's our player, which obviously these guys can afford to do, by the way.
Yeah, but they would. I don't think they wouldn't.
But they can't. Now, I think what's going to be really determinant in terms of what happens to Newcastle in the next couple of years is actually going to be a knock-on effect of what happens with Manchester City themselves. So the thinking at the moment is that these court appeals probably not going to get heard. And therefore, for example, the Champions League ban will probably get suspended. That seems to be the fault at the moment. And then it will get heard next year when it's the world's a better place or whatever, right? But depending on the outcome of that court case, I think it's going to have massive bearing on what happens with Newcastle. Because I think if City win the appeal, there's every chance that FFP might get binned. I think if the ban holds on City, then FFP will continue to carry on as it is, and there'll be restrictions in terms of spending the money based on your turnover. And it's worth saying that Newcastle will get great turnover from the size of that football club, gate receipts, etc. They will be more powerful than, say, if Watford had just inherited that money, for example.
Yeah. Even my club, West Ham, they'll be well above us in terms of financial.
Yes, but in terms of what you've got in similar there, the operation of the London Stadium, etc., you would be in a better position to do what Newcastle may or may not as well. But I really think if City overturn the ban, I can see mass. I don't know if it's issues for football, but mass sort of what is this FFP for then?
Yeah, completely.
Potentially getting thrown out, and it's at that point where I think Newcastle could go absolutely mental.
Yeah, well, I don't see that happening for one very interesting reason. At the end of the day, you're talking about here a nation state buying a football club. So now Saudi Arabia own Newcastle United. The nation state of Qatar owns Paris Saint-Germain, right? Whereas all of the other clubs are owned by individuals. Even Manchester City is not owned by the state of Abu Dhabi. It's one of the sheikhs, the prince in Abu Dhabi, that owns Manchester City. So it becomes a bit of an arms race where different countries can just buy football clubs, right? I've got a good pal of mine. He works for a company that manage the Canadian pension fund for the government. So the government in Canada have a pot of money, which is basically all of Canada's like pension fund, And they invest it because they want to make more money on it to make sure that they've got enough money to pay people's pensions, whatever. I'm pretty sure that last count, he said that the total size of that is $30 billion US. What's to say that their investment fund, Canada, couldn't say, right, I'm going to buy Tottenham. So then you've got countries owning football clubs within the Premier League. It's not going to be good enough to have a few billion. So if you look at there's a lot of articles online that people can Google. If you just Google Newcastle Saudi Arabian owners, and then they'll rank in rich list, right? 260 billion, 23 billion. And then you've got lots of people in the 5 to 10 billions, all the way down to Delia Smith with her 25 million pounds. I bet she's feeling flush. It's an arms race. It's an arms race. If you get rid of FFP, it becomes an arms race that everybody needs a rich owner. The likes of Abramovich and Joe Lewis that you guys have, and the Glazers are only 4 billion, are not going to cut it. And you can't be in a situation where the only way you are rich enough to own a football club is if you're a country. That can't be the way it's got to be, right? So I don't see it getting to that point. There's no way they can scrap FFP because, it'd be ridiculous what could potentially happen.
Is there a difference between, because I think most people have seen that image, haven't they, of the top 10 clubs in terms of the clubs. So, Newcastle to them is 60 billion, Man City 23 billion, and then there's a cluster of clubs on between 3 and 5 billion. In terms of football and progression of football, does it matter if you've got 3 billion or 300 billion? Does it matter?
No.
You can only spend a certain amount of that, right?
No. If I was a Newcastle fan, and I look at what's happened at Manchester City, what I would be most excited about, there's a lot of spending that they can do, which is outside of FFP rules, right? Player transfers and wages and agents fees and all that kind of shit goes into FFP rules. But your stadium and your youth system and developing all of that stuff sits a little bit outside of FFP. So if you look at City from the outside, it's a well-run organization, and they've put money into the entire club from top to bottom, the ladies team, the academy, the stadium and everything that goes with it. I think Newcastle will see a real uplift in all of that, which will have benefits 3, 6, 10 years down the road. So I think they're going to transform as a club, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I don't think it's sustainable to change your playing squad immediately as well. Like, you can't just buy 11 new players and suddenly win the league. It doesn't work like that.
No, but they can definitely buy 11 better players than what they've got.
I don't know. Other than Joe Linton, I probably agree with you, mate.
Put it this way.
Their star.
Put it this way. If Newcastle was to win the league in 24 months' time, none of that playing squad will be in that team.
Saint Maximin has to be in that team.
He's good enough to play for title winners. I don't know.
No, but he's just so much fun.
Yeah, he might still be knocking about.
You're right. I mean, there might be one or two that stick around. I mean, Dubravka's not the worst goalkeeper in the world. If he stuck around, that wouldn't surprise me. Matt Ritchie might have a bit part to play. One of the long stars might break. You're not going to buy 11. I could see one or two of them staying in the squad, in the team or squad. But yeah, I think just because they wouldn't want to overhaul the entire squad. Thing is, you've got to ask yourself here, why are they doing this? Why are the Saudi Arabia doing this? Why are they investing in a football club in this way? And we already know that football's massive in the Middle East. It's a huge market. It's why the World Cup's going to Qatar and what have you. Most people will agree that this is very much a PR exercise for the nation state of Saudi Arabia. They have issues around human rights records, and that we don't need to go into massive detail, but things like homosexuality is illegal. They still have public executions. Women were not allowed to drive, all that kind of stuff, right? There's still a very bad press around Saudi Arabia. Some of it earned. The murder of journalists, we could go on, right? They want to improve their Western public image. This is why they're doing it. So they will be doing as much as they possibly can outwardly to win friends and show off the best side of Saudi Arabia. I think if you start saying that people shouldn't own a football club based on morals, you are opening a can of worms that you cannot You can't now. The cat's already out of the bag with this. There are too many other dodgy things happening in football that also would need to be looked at. And so I don't think you can take this away. Look at Barcelona now have got issues within their own board and allegations of corruption. You've got Steven Gerrard at Rangers talking about the whole situation around the vote being corrupt. There's a lot of murky things happening in football that I think if anybody starts saying we shouldn't allow these guys to own a football club because of the moral side of things, it's probably right as a standalone, but it doesn't fit with all the other things that are going wrong as well within football.
Why do you think the Qataris bought Manchester City?
The Abu Dhabi guys. A PR exercise as well. I think they wanted to. It's a marketing and PR exercise.
Do you think they care about that football club?
Yeah.
I think they do.
Yeah. They definitely do. But it was part of a strategy, a master strategy. I think it was like to increase and improve their influence all around in the West. And football is a big part of it.
Do you think then for the guys that are taking over Newcastle, does success on the pitch matter?
Yes.
That's what the Newcastle fans will want to hear.
Yes. Yeah. There's plenty of Newcastle fans that are like, we don't want these owners because of the human rights stuff and issues around ethics and morals.
We'll keep Mike Ashley then.
Yeah, but the majority won't be like that, in my opinion. The majority won't be thinking that way at all.
We spoke about this with Johnny Pringle, didn't we? Like last summer and that when we've had him on Clash of the Correspondents about the ethics behind Man City. And he's like, look, it's not right. What do you want? Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stop going and supporting my team? Or, you know, he said, you know, he's aware of it, but it is what it is. And I'd be the same. Like, if these guys took over Tottenham right now, I'd be buzzing. And I think they have every right to feel the same as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you want to try and make it a moral situation, then there's so much more that you need to take into consideration.
Has football in any way ever cared about morals?
No.
That's reality.
No, unfortunately. So it's not the answer that a lot of people will want. And you're like almost, I feel like they will want to improve, or they want to improve their image in the West or whatever they want to do. Let's do it together rather than closing the door and saying, no, you can't come into this world of football. Like, if they buy Newcastle and they realise, actually, you know what, our perception in the West is bad because we do things like stone homosexuals, we need to stop doing that. That can only be a good thing. So I want to take the positive and hope. I'd rather invite Saudi Arabia into the football community and use it to educate them on things they do that are not perhaps morally correct, in line with what our thinking is, than shun them.
I think this conversation is going to rage on for quite a while.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong. There's absolutely no right or wrong, because for every layer you peel off the onion, it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd think, you know what, it's not instant, and you don't want instant overnight success. But so long as they do the right things to put the right infrastructure into the club to give it 50 years of stability and success, that's what you want.
Yeah, I think the good times are coming. I think most neutrals, and we'll talk about this Thursday when we do the Keegan years on that, if there was a club that you'd want it to land on, I think a lot of people would name Newcastle United. And I know there's plenty who would disagree with that statement, but I think across the country, a lot of people would say, yeah, let them have it. I think, you know, we'll still be talking Big Six in 5-10 years rather than Big Seven, but I think Newcastle will be amongst it. That's what we're saying right now. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all. But we also know money doesn't necessarily guarantee success as well. So no, but Manchester City and Chelsea fans will tell you it does bloody help. It does. You're right. It does. There we go. Let's talk about a bit of Champ Man FPL, shall we? I heard you had a good week. 24 points, I think. It was. How can you even get 24 points in this game? I don't know. I did. Shaka Hislop didn't play. So you got no goalkeeper, right? No goalkeeper. Who's your other goalie? Schmeichel. He's out for another 2 more games. He's suspended for another 2, yeah. Correct.
I then had Gallas, Melberg, and Hart in defence.
Gallas, Melberg, and Hart. Yeah, that went well.
So a 1, and a 7.
Yeah. Keep going.
Juan Sebastian Veron.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
2-pointer.
He's out for 2 weeks, by the way.
Frank Lampard. 2-pointer.
I don't know why you got that. Yeah, go on.
Kevin Nolan.
Yeah.
1-pointer.
Yeah.
Jason Wilcox. He picked up a 4-pointer.
Yeah.
And then I had a blanks on my front line of Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, and Canute. To be honest, I switched off all of the alerts as soon as Henry went off at 49 minutes. I knew the day was done, and so I just switched it off. To be honest, it's one of those weeks where I've had it in FPL before, where you have a full list of blanks and nobody returns 24, 28, 30 points.
What are you gonna do to fix that squad?
Wildcard.
Yeah. Are you generally gonna do it? Yeah, you've got to. Right?
Yeah. I'm happy with my front three, and I'm happy with some of my players. I think Veron, unfortunately, has really stung everybody who has stuck with him. And now it's that gambler's fallacy of sticking with him that little bit longer until he bangs in 4 goals in one game. I still think I'm struggling a little bit with this bloody understanding how the simulation works, but I'm going to wildcard, to be honest with you. But it was a bad week. How was yours?
Was okay. I had a small green arrow, a 58 or 59. I think I got was all right. It was well clear of the average, so I'm about 150th overall. Are you still in the top 1,000, Serge? No.
Dropped out.
Good lad.
Dropped out massively.
Okay. So I've come out of it not too badly. I have one injury that's occurred, which is Malbronk is now out for a month. So pre-weekend, my thoughts were to go Richard Rufus to Maurizio Tirico. Ipswich have a sustained, really long run of fixtures. And I was going to move Freddie Canute to Henrik Pedersen of Bolton, because Bolton have 3 extremely good home fixtures coming up consecutively. 4 of their next 5 overall are at home. And the 5th is Aston Villa, which is really nice as well. That Malbronk injury probably means I'm going to be looking at a player we mentioned last Thursday, Suj, Finidi George, 5.5 million at Ipswich. So it means we're probably going to wait an extra week to make that defensive move because of doubts about sort of Solano's fitness. He should be okay to start, but his fitness seems to be up and down at the moment, although he's doing really, really well in the game. And so if I go possibly no Solano, no Malbronk, suddenly my midfield is decimated. So I think I need to make that immediate change to get myself coverage of players. Plus, I've got Hippier at the back, and they've got Man United away, so I don't intend to play him. So it's more important that I get a stronger starting lineup first, then I'll attack Ipswich defensively the week after. But they're 2 teams you should really have a look at the moment, so Ipswich and Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton, I will be trying to catch the live stream from the gents.
The other ones with you could go Ricketts is cheaper than Pedersen at Bolton, but I think he's more prone to rotation. Perhaps one of the wing back boys, perhaps Simon Charlton is 4.5. They've just bought Colin Cooper from Middlesbrough. Ipswich have a sustained run for a really long period of about 10 fixtures. I think they got about 7 out of the next 10 at home or something. Really good set of run of fixtures. Even the away games aren't too bad. And defensively, it's not just Tirico. I'm going to have a strong look at Haridason as an alternative. He seems to be a bit of a bonus point magnet. And the keeper's all right as well, so if you don't want to spend too much money in that area, Matteo Sereni is also decent. So Ipswich and Bolton are 2 clubs to really have a look at. Bolton shorter term, Ipswich medium to long term, to allow you to have some more powerful players elsewhere as well, I would say.
Yeah, I'll definitely be having a look at that. I need to get some Leeds coverage in. I've only got Veron from Manchester United. I want a bit of United coverage. They didn't have the best result of the weekend. So you're going to be streaming again Wednesday? Usual?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Wednesday, Saturdays. It's becoming a regular thing. It wasn't supposed to, and now you're sucked in.
Fucked now, aren't I?
There's quite a few Champman questions on the old Twitter. So should we jump into those and get some of these Twitter questions done? In no particular order, we'll just go top to bottom. FPL Chancer Dan, and before I read these questions out, caveat, I haven't read any of these questions yet, so we're going into them blind, James, in case I read out a question that we've already answered.
Standard.
I see the third word in Dan's question is Newcastle, so I was like, let me put that out there first. If the Newcastle takeover happens, who is their manager when they play their next match?
Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce. I can't see them making a managerial change until the end of the season, really.
He'll get a chance, won't he? You know who's going to end up there, don't you?
Kenny Dalglish? No, Jose.
Poch.
You think so? Yeah, that would disappoint you, wouldn't it?
I would far rather I just want him to come back to Spurs. but
Wherever he goes, you'll always look at him and be
I've decided, you know what? When he got sacked at the time, I made peace with myself that I was so unhappy with what I was watching that something behind the scenes must be so wrong. But actually, no, having lived without for 4 months, I'd just take the bastard back. I'd love him to go abroad and manage and go to an Atletico Madrid and be really successful. That would be ideal. It looks like United are really keeping faith with Solskjaer now. That sort of plot twist behind the scenes now appears to be in Solskjaer's favour, where I think actually if they sacked him now, even if it was for Pochettino, people would actually, inside United, would be in such a opposite words, euphoria of like uproar, of like, what are you doing? And of course, you got to remember with United, the last football game they played was when they beat Manchester City. So the feeling around that football club now is positive. It's been positive for over a month, where it's not at, say, places like Tottenham, for example. But so I could genuinely see 9 months to a year from now, if Newcastle were sitting mid-table and these guys want to push that football club on quickly, that somebody who's free and available like Pochettino would have to be of interest.
Yeah, I agree.
I could see that. And do you know what? If he was to take on another job in England, I'd probably rather he wouldn't say that one.
Yeah, true. We've got a question here from Cal at Sirota CSIP. That's a hard Twitter handle to read out. After such a success with the Euro 96 quiz last week, medium success, let's say, can we knock him down a peg by making him a Cammy-esque figure for your next Champman FPL stream? Why would it knock me down a peg? Because I got 24 points, more than likely.
I'll speak to you about this offline, Serge.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of other people tagged me on tweets saying, come on, Cammy. It's like, I was going to shave my head, to be honest, to match your hair, because I can't get to the hairdresser.
Need the little goatee or something, mate.
That I can do. The little tash. Yeah, are we going to talk about like doing a very long show?
I really don't know if you should talk about this on the podcast, because I've agreed to nothing.
Okay. James and I, we need to talk about doing a very, very long show. Anyway, Brad J, FPL.
I think if anyone who follows on Twitter has probably got the idea of where this is going. And the problem is, this is probably the first time that me and Suj haven't had a serious conversation prior to the podcast, where normally one of us comes up with an idea and we just go, yeah, okay,
right.
Boom, and we just do it. This one is a bit bigger.
Needs some thought. Yeah. Right. Brad J, FPL. Do you think when football restarts and fans are eventually allowed back into stadiums, we'll see more of a relaxed atmosphere between the two sets of fans and less trouble? Trouble isn't that common, I know, but just wondering if there would be more respect towards each other.
No.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, James. No. Because football's
Unfortunately not.
It's very tribal. In the heat of the moment, you do things that you might not normally do in terms of being abusive or shouting at players or getting irritated or worked up, especially when you're having to put up with a lot of what you and I have had to put up with this season. It's just been dross, right? And such large parts of it. We'll go back to shouting at referees as quickly as we ever did. We'll go back to shouting at other fans as quickly as we ever did. I really do think so. I think things like physios running onto the pitch and the hospital crews and police and stuff might get a bit more respect, but I don't think football-related stuff necessarily will. Owners, managers, players, no chance.
For a lot of people, mentality-wise, things ingrained in them, thought-wise, in terms of their thought process for opposition players, respect for people, will probably have an inward change. You are never going to change what 3,000 away fans on the pitch do.
Yeah.
And Can you
And
imagine?
alcohol is a really
Well,
important mix
exactly.
in the
Yes, of
what
course it
happens.
is.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these people, when football and going to stadiums does eventually restart, and at some point it will, then, you know, it's going to be like, you know, imagine that. Fucking hell, yeah, wicked. I'm off to Bolton away. It's the Champions League final. Just to go somewhere on the piss. It's going to be a big thing. So actually, no, I think in the immediate weeks when we return to football, it'll probably be
Probably worse.
probably.
Oh dear. Right, this is coming in from the Champman guys, Champman 0102 Fantasy. I hope you guys are doing well and the spreadsheets are not driving you guys bonkers. But reiterate what a great job they're doing with it, no doubt. Ably supported by the likes of you with the content. I think it really helps keep interest for people
I've
going.
nothing to do with their platform.
No, you're not.
Game.
But I think the live streams are really good, especially now that we've got the graphics and everything going on. But
Shout
anyway,
out my boy FPL captain with a
let's answer their question. You have 30 million and have to pick a fresh front line ahead of game week 7. Who do you buy?
Can I just say in the first thing to whichever one of the guys, whether it was Andy, Dave, or James, next time you're going to send in a question to us, do it from like your individual account, please, because quite clearly I had to turn off the fucking notifications for this tweet because obviously so many people have notifications on for them. So they've obviously responded to me in tweet, and everybody just thinks it's them sending out a tweet. So I'm like, hang on a minute, this is my podcast now.
It's all fun and games. There's a few names that have really
strikers.
Yeah, I mean, I like Boxic was the first on the list as the best budget option out there right now. Then was Alan Shearer, and then I'd have been torn with Henry or Van Nistelrooy, and I think Van Nistelrooy happens to be better value right now. So I'd have gone with Van Nistelrooy, Shearer, Boxic. But Rebrov is a good shout.
I was going to say Rebrov would have been the first one I'd say because I'm on Van Nistelrooy, Shearer, and Canute. I'm going to be going Canute to Henrik Pedersen. Well, I've actually already done that. Obviously, I can change my mind if I want, but I've got it bust that way. I would go Rebrov, and then I'd just go Henry over Van Nistelrooy. So I would go Henry, Rebrov, Pedersen. But I agree with Boxic. Great shout. It'd be so consistent. It looks like fixture-wise, probably won't have too much of an impact on him either.
I think a lot of people have been going after Van Nistelrooy as their main striker, and then Rebrov is getting a lot of love as the best budget option. Viduka's getting quite a few shouts, and he did well. He scored again at the weekend, didn't he? And Alan Shearer.
The thing is, at the moment, with like Veron, other than Beckham, anything plus 8.5 million in midfield hasn't performed yet. Beckham's only 10, so he's very gettable if people want to get him in. So there's no reason not to invest that money in the front line at the moment. Like a lot of people want to get Grabby, he's top goal scorer at the moment. I think he's got 6 or 7. He's only 5 million forward, and he's banging it. But their next 2 games are away from home, and they don't seem to be scoring goals away from home. That seems to be how it works for them. But I keep saying to people, like, if you go Grabby, where the fuck are you putting the rest of the money? It's actually, at the moment, difficult to spend it. But I think template is beginning to go towards an idea of like Van Nistelrooy, Shearer, and Grabby, or perhaps Rebrov instead of Shearer in the short term because Spurs have got some nice home fixtures. That's what the template's moving towards. One of the things I'm really conscious of, and the guys mentioned me on their stream last night on their channel when they were talking about it, was the idea. It's a little bit like Sky in the sense no price changes or anything. There's only 1,500 players. If you are part of a template, you cannot make ground, right? Some of these guys, Van Nistelrooy, Ian Hart and that, got like 70% ownership, near enough. I'm not saying don't have them, but you've got to have some differentials. You cannot just hit a template in this game. That's why I want to attack Henrik Pedersen at Bolton, who scored 1 goal so far this season, but they have some amazing home fixtures coming up. And I just want to take that chance before the fixture run comes around. The problem I've got is, and I'm really interested to see what his ownership is going to be like come Wednesday night, because I've been so vocal about it and nobody else has been talking about it. So if we get to Wednesday night and suddenly his ownership's like 20%, which is okay in this game, I'm going to be like, the fuck? Everyone's following me. So I might just have to
switch off the
start. I
stream.
might have to just start shutting my mouth about it, basically.
Yeah, and then have a live stream of just announcing the goals. It'll be like the results that were announced on the BBC after the matches. Bournemouth 1.
Anyway,
0.
but for those playing the Champman FPL, don't buy Pedersen. I want to buy him for myself. And when he flops, it's on me, just me. I don't want to be responsible for no one else's shit either.
Oh dear. Let's move it on. We've got Steve at FPL Trophy. Hope you're okay, Steve. What do you think of some of the hypocritical journos that have started to say we should be against this takeover of Newcastle, even though the same paper is partly owned by the Saudis? These guys own Uber, Twitter, like I was saying, they invest in all sorts. It can't be our job to fight that fight, surely. We've talked about it.
I'm gonna bring Oliver Holt into this again because he really pissed me off with the whole Rudiger racism thing, where it was very double standards about, for example, the way he attacked Tottenham, but was so defensive about John Terry years earlier. And he's done the same here in terms of ethically, you've got to worry about where the money's coming from Newcastle and all that. And yet, if you go back years, you can see how he's responded to people and said, who cares where the Abramovich money comes from?
Mm.
So he's quite a hypocritical journalist. So, just ignore. I mean,
yeah, I'm with you on that as well.
I don't want to dig out individual journalists too much at the moment because they're probably going through quite a difficult time. But I think, you want me to have sympathy for certain newspapers, the way they've reported things for so long. No, I'm not giving it.
Mm. We've got Benny Blanco here. This one's for you, James. Hi, James. Who do you rate as the best 5 million or below midfielder in Champman for the next 4 to 5 fixtures? You mentioned that the Bolton have got a good run. Does that push Kevin Nolan up the tree a little bit, or is he sitting too deep?
Not really. I mean, he scored against Spurs in game week 5, but that's not going to happen very often. I think it would still be Stephen McPhail because Leeds have got some injuries in that area at the moment, and he's back to fitness now. So with Leeds, it doesn't matter on the fixtures too much either. So probably McPhail. 5 million is a really awkward one. If I'm going to gamble on Fanidi at 5.5, I think 4.5. The best 4.5 probably will be Gary McAllister at Charlton. But these are luxury moves as and when. With Jermaine
McPhail's
Wright,
still out for a few weeks.
Jermaine Wright has done well. Ipswich, he scored twice, I think, when they played Leicester a few weeks back. But they bought Jason Kumas from Tranmere as well. So he's not sure either. So if I was buying someone at 5 million in midfield, I would still go for Stephen McPhail with Leeds.
Yeah, although he's injured at the moment, so that doesn't really help anybody. He is he? I thought he was still a couple more weeks that he was going to be out.
They tweeted either this morning or last night that he's back fit.
Oh, hallelujah. Whilst we're talking about players and prices in Champman, let's answer the Blue Cities question. Best 4.5 million or below defender in Champman other than Lord Staunton?
I need to do some digging detail into Ipswich for next game week, so I'm probably going to have to miss it this one. But if you pin me right now, it's probably Tarico.
Right, James, you ready for this?
Go.
This is coming in from the Blue City as well. Rank these in order of your preference of how to eat eggs. Hard-boiled, soft-boiled, fried, scrambled, poached, omelette.
It depends what mood I'm in. Fried, scrambled, poached, and then couldn't give a toss for the other two.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to go hard-boiled is worse. Scrambled second worst. Fried, soft-boiled, omelette, poached.
It was omelette in there.
Omelette was second.
I do like an omelette, yeah. Chuck omelette at third.
Top of the tree. Third. There we go. Now I'm going to poach mine, James.
We've had some poached eggs during this shutdown. Wouldn't normally bother, but yeah, quite nice.
Yeah. Matt at Leafy Dragon FPL. Do you think Newcastle need a DOF? If so, who would you bring in? Talk amongst fans is Les Ferdinand, currently at QPR, who will have links with Jamie Rubin, a potential stakeholder. What are your thoughts? A director of football at Newcastle?
Go anywhere near Les Ferdinand.
Nah?
No. It's not. I mean, he did nothing. He was basically there as a yes man to Sherwood at Spurs. And I don't think he's pulled up any trees at Queen's Park Rangers either. Newcastle would want someone like what City have got with Tixi Bergestein, right? If I pronounce that correctly. You want the links. The links to big clubs around Europe if you want to start buying some of these players. Les Ferdinand don't mean nothing to Kylian and Mbappe, mate.
No, you're right.
So, no, you want to get someone with experience in the European markets.
Right, James, this is coming at you. This is from Lighty_FPL at FPL Lighty. James, what are the 5 things, and you don't have to give 5 because it's quite a lot to think of on the spot. Let's call it 3 things that you are either most looking forward to or least looking forward to from the Spurs Amazon documentary.
Oh, I did remember seeing that question. Most looking forward to sort of insights into perhaps the stadium and the training ground particularly. The sort of thing that you're just not generally going to see. So to see things like how the players act in terms of training and stuff like that would fascinate me. Other than that, the whole thing I'm not looking forward to. Like, pass me the hankies. If the rumour is they're going to show Pochettino being sacked.
Really? But the meeting?
I don't know. That's the rumour. Whether it be a phone call or whatever, I don't know. But if that's true, pass me the hankies, mate. Don't speak to me for... If there's a live stream the next day, I ain't doing it. I'm still going to be like sitting curled up in a ball in my room. So, no, I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be a disaster. There's nothing good that can come out of these things. You suddenly announce you're doing these things, or it's like the manager curse. It happened to Poch as well, isn't it? I'm releasing a book. You might as well just fucking resign there and then, mate. It's the end of you.
You're right.
This is not going to be good for Spurs.
I'm looking forward to watching it, to be honest with you.
I'm not. I mean, I obviously will, but I kind of wish they would just do it now. Get it done. Just get it over and done with.
Oh, dear. We've got Mike Day here, Mike D. Bristol. What do you think about watching football from your car? FC Midtjylland at the stadium until fans are allowed back in. I think it's a good idea. It could add a bit of atmosphere to an empty stadium. Have you seen this in the Danish Super League, James?
Yeah, I saw. I wasn't paying much attention, but I saw someone was trying to do it, so it may well have been them. That's the team who played Manchester United in the Europa League quite recently. The thing is, right, there's nowhere at Spurs you could do that.
There's nowhere at West Ham you could do that.
You couldn't. There's no way you could do it.
We were so excited about having the biggest screen outside a stadium until Bayern got one bigger or whatever. Where are you going to park your car to look at it? Like, you can't. There's nowhere to park your car. So I don't even think that it's physically going to be possible.
I would also probably break something. You imagine that. Well, I'm sitting in the car outside the ground and we're playing Arsenal. And we score in like the last minute or something.
Yeah, people are going to stay in their car. It's not going to happen.
Something is going to break. And it's probably going to be me first.
If that was the only way you were allowed to watch Spurs, you'd get a driving license quicker than you could.
Mate.
Crash course. Intensive one-day driving school.
Forget the driving license, mate. I would just be in the car and going. I would just try and go.
Yeah, take one of the kids' pedal cars or something.
Get like get a tricycle and put like a fucking tent. You know what you call the guys who are on their bikes in the West End and that. What do you call them?
Rickshaws.
Yeah, that's the ones. Yeah,
yes.
But just get like a complete overhanging 100% tent or something. That'll be me.
Nice. Josh Fosh at @JoshFosh_FPL. Why does it matter that a club is taken over by a wealthy owner? Won't they still have to comply with FFP and not be able to really take advantage of the extra funding? Feels like FFP is just a way for the big clubs to keep their monopoly on football.
Well, Newcastle's going to be the first real case where we see.
Yeah,
because obviously City, PSG, Chelsea have broken that monopoly before because it didn't matter. There was nothing to stop them doing whatever they wanted. Now we'll see if what they intended to do with FFP, which I think you're quite right, was make it a closed shop for many big clubs. Let's see. There's no guarantee that Newcastle are going to be winning trophies in 5-10 years regularly or whatever. There's no guarantee. So this is the test. Let's see. You got to remember, it's all right saying now, okay, they've got 10 times more money than Man City, but Man City got themselves there and have now sustained it.
Yep. Definitely agree with you on that.
Newcastle have to get there first.
Indeed, we do. James, that's all the Twitter questions that we have. I think that's probably about an hour, 55 minutes that we've been talking, sir.
That'll do, pal.
Indeed. So this week we've got plenty of content coming out at everybody. Tomorrow, People's Poll. You have set the most ridiculous potential challenge ever. Even I started to try and play around with this challenge because you basically have to set a spreadsheet up with 1 to 25, country, club, squad number. And I don't know about you, but I started attacking really obscure countries first. So, for example, Gabon, Aubameyang. Like, there's going to be no other players from Gabon in the Premier League. And Aubameyang's actually a good player. Let me get him in first. So just trying to find players.
But then do you want to waste your Arsenal spot on Aubameyang
I don't mind.
Rather than Henry or Bergkamp or Tony Adams?
Because like England, France and Holland, suddenly I've got loads of other options there. So you have to try and tackle the difficult ones first. And then I have to get his squad number, put his squad number in, and then rules out everybody else with that squad number from the entirety of the Premier League.
So most of you might have seen this Jamie Carragher challenge, which was one of the options in the poll as well. You know, pick a best ever 11. No player has played for the same club as someone else in the team, and they can't be from the same country. Exactly. So I thought, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this was on Thursday or Friday or something. I'm thinking, oh, well, why don't we just do that in the Premier League? We'll do it for the Premier League. We'll do it something different. And I was thinking, nah, that's a bit dry, actually. What can we do to make this extra? Why don't I come up with the idea that, like, you can't have the same squad number? And then it just fucking expanded from there in terms of what it is now. So it's similar to that, but you basically, it's squad number related as well. You can't have two players with the same squad number. And that is the killer. Plus, there are loads of players who you don't realise have played for someone else. Like, I had no idea that Ender Stevens had played for Aston Villa.
Right.
Absolutely none. So I'm learning things while I'm doing it, which is interesting as well. But yeah, to combine the no other club, no other country, because what you got to remember as well with the no other club in the Premier League is for the Carragher's one, you can cross the whole of the world if you want to.
Yeah.
You are restricted here in terms of the amount of options and clubs that you can look at. Sheffield United caused a huge headache. And they're the first team I looked at because I knew straight away they're going to be a headache because nearly everyone in that squad is British. And I thought, oh, well, at least I can have Sander Berge. No, Sander Berge number 32. And you have to have the squad is from numbers 1 to 25.
Fantastic.
They couldn't even have that. So you have to, the trick is if you want to join in and do it, you can look through my Twitter feed to see the exact rules and that. But it will take you a whole day. Like, it's not an hour's job. And if you start it, you are fucked. So if you don't want to try this sort of thing out, it will kill your brain. When I put the tweet out to put it in the poll, I wasn't really sure if it was even possible. I've learned that it's possible, but now I'm trying to make a very, very good team from it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I keep re-challenging it.
You put 25 together. You want to get a good 25 together, don't you? The best 25 that you possibly can.
To even get to a legit 25, I think you need to give yourself a minimum, I would say, of 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
You've got to, because you'll just be double checking. You tell me you remember like who all these Sheffield United players have played for in their career. Like I said, you find out Ender Stevens played for Villa. What? And then you think, oh shit, has Dean Henderson ever played for Man United? Let me double check that. You've got to double check things to make sure it's right. And I've seen a few teams, and every team I've seen so far has had something illegal in it. So I've had to go like Ian Hart. Loads of people had Ian Hart as because you can have from 5 clubs who previously played in the Premier League to make your squad of 25 is what it is. Loads of people had Ian Hart. He played for Reading in the Premier League. You can't have him.
Difficult.
Left backs are a huge problem.
We've got a quiz on Wednesday where we're talking about Premier League hat tricks.
I ain't even started that yet. I need to finish this team first.
And then on Thursday, we got Throwback Thursday. A bit of a topic at the moment, Newcastle United. And we're looking back to the Newcastle United team that nearly won the league. Yeah,
we'll look at the Keegan years. We'll look at what happened when he took over and he stopped them going down to what was Division 3, basically. Then obviously challenging for the league. We might touch on the second spell a little bit under Ashley, but it'll be mainly about, you know, that Shearer, Ferdinand, Ginola, Beardsley, Lee, all that team from the mid-90s.
Correct. So if you have been staying tuned to all of our content, we really do appreciate the support during this time. We hope we've kept you mildly entertained, but do make sure you like and subscribe to the show so that we get it as far and wide as we possibly can. Stay safe, wash your hands, be good. Ciao for now.
Q Maze it, man, child. Be nice to each other, everybody. We done, y'all.